Browns fans, NFL insider Dianna Russini of The Athletic just dropped a bunch of NFL trade nuggets over the weekend before the NFL trade deadline. Rapoport weighed in as well. We're going to talk about how this could impact the Cleveland Browns. You're not going to want to miss it as that trade deadline is coming up fast, folks. November 4th, we're just 2 weeks away from the deadline. The Cleveland Browns have been one of the most active teams in terms of trades. Andrew Berry's made 3 already. Stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss the insight we have from the insiders on trade news that could be coming up soon. Welcome into the Browns Report, everybody. I am your host, Joey O'Donohue. And before we get into the nuggets, hit that subscribe button if you're watching this right now because we are so close to yet another milestone here on the show. 56,000 subscribers coming up. 530 people away from hitting that big red button. If you do that, you get daily Cleveland Browns news, content, and analysis. And I'm a diehard Browns fan myself, so we can share in the emotions of being a fan together all season long. Hit that subscribe button. Dianna Russini said, the Titans are open for business on every player except for quarterback Cam Ward and defensive tackle Jeffrey Simmons. They are looking to stockpile future picks, which the Cleveland Browns have a lot of. Rapoport weighed in as well, said Titans players are drawing interest around the league and would be more available. That list includes cornerback Roger McCreary. Folks, McCreary's a nickel corner. It's exactly the position Cleveland needs. We got our 1, we got our 2, in Tyson Campbell and Denzel Ward now. But McCreary would be a solid fit for a third corner slot that has been open and mixing up for the Cleveland Browns with Miles Harden, Cameron Mitchell, who we finally waived, different players like that. McCreary, 5'11", 190 pounds out of Auburn. Here's your scouting report on him. Physical, athletic corner. He's known for always being around the ball. Seems like he would fit well in a man defense scheme that Jim Schwartz likes to run. Although Cleveland ran zone last week more than they ever have. 2024, just last season, McCreary had 12 tackles for loss. That's tied for the most among NFL defensive backs that year. Sounds a little bit like Tyson Campbell, doesn't he? What a great fit that would be for the Cleveland Browns cornerback room. And the Titans, as we now know, they're well open to doing business on everybody except their quarterback. They traded their other corner, Jarvis Brownlee Jr., for a late-round pick swap. Literally, a 6th for a 7th. And so if they're willing to do that for Brownlee Jr., who some would argue is just as good, if not better, than McCreary, then why wouldn't they pull the trigger on Roger McCreary as well? I mean, the two corners are very similar stat-wise. Look at this. Tackles about the same. Passes broken up. It's close. Brownlee Jr. even forced a fumble already this year. And so very comparable corners. And if the Titans were willing to give up Brownlee Jr. for almost nothing to the New York Jets, well, why wouldn't they trade McCreary with the Cleveland Browns then if they're clearly sellers this year and the Browns have a bunch of draft picks? So I say we make the same move. How about the Browns bring in Roger McCreary and a 7th-round pick? We do the late-round pick swap for the Titans, give them a 6th. Super cheap. Helps Cleveland out with a position of need by a guy that I just showed. He's got 30 tackles already. A physical corner could really help out. What do you think, Browns fans? Would you do this deal? Would you accept the trade? Type A for accept if you're down to bring in another corner. Type D for decline if you're like, I don't think Cleveland needs to give this up, but I think this is a cheap deal that would help the Browns. And folks, we got some more big names coming up for you on today's show, so do not go anywhere. This is the first of many. Next up, it's Rapoport telling us that several teams have called the Miami Dolphins about star wide receiver Jaylen Waddle. Sources say those teams have been told Miami has no interest in trading him. So we had a lot of buzz on Jaylen Waddle recently. Seemed like Miami would have a steep asking price for him. And now Rapoport is telling us Miami has no interest in trading him. They don't want to do this deal for Jaylen Waddle. So what other receivers could Cleveland get? Well, Dianna Russini weighed in on Eagles star wide receiver A.J. Brown. Eagles are in search of help at edge rusher and cornerback. They have received calls on A.J. Brown, and teams are being told we aren't moving him now. That seems to be the report from the Eagles part of things. But remember, when we talked on this very show, how long you've been watching the Browns Report, we talked about a Denzel Ward for A.J. Brown deal months ago. And I genuinely think the Browns were calling the Eagles at that time. I'm not kidding. We had a big win after the Packers game. 1-2, should have beat the Bengals, should have been 2-1. I really think the phones were picked up to try and get a star wide receiver in A.J. Brown, who's been frustrated, who's been lacking targets in Philadelphia. Pass game had been struggling for a couple weeks in Philadelphia. And then look what A.J. Brown put on his Instagram today, a few hours ago. Said, using me, but not using me. Wide receivers, they can be divas, especially the stars. When they're not feeding them, they want up out of there. So the Eagles say, we don't want to trade A.J. Brown, but they're also actively looking for rushers, actively looking for corners. And I really think a top 3 corner in the league would entice Philadelphia. They already have a good receiving core. They are the defending Super Bowl champions. Cornerback 2 is a desperate need for Philly. Adding Ward would make that defense unstoppable. And I do think it would be enticing for Philadelphia. I'm not saying it happens. I'm not saying I want it to happen. I'm just saying if it were to happen, that is how it would. A star corner like Denzel Ward would have to be in the deal for A.J. Brown. And so Cleveland's one of the only teams that could actually make this move. A team that is both a buyer, both a seller before the trade deadline, as evidenced by trading away Joe Flacco, trading for Cam Robinson, swapping corners, Tyson Campbell and Greg Newsome. I mean, seriously, they've done every trade you can think of already. And so if this were to get done, that's how it would be done. Obviously, as I said, the Eagles don't want to make this move, but they desperately need another corner, and we got one of the best in the league. Browns fans, is that a crazy concept? Would you trade stars? Would you deal Denzel Ward for A.J. Brown? Yes or no? Give me a yes or no in that comment section, Browns fans. I am curious. To be honest, seeing that A.J. Brown's a little bit of a diva, and I love Denzel Ward so much, I'm kind of hesitant to pull the trigger. Now, if it happened, you know I'd come on the show and I'd be celebrating. We just got a wide receiver, a star. It's our biggest need right now, arguably. So I'd be hyped up about it. But I'm not giving away Denzel Ward for nothing. So type yes or no. What do you think, Browns fans? Coming up on the show, we got more trade news on some big names. Big names, ladies and gentlemen. You are not going to want to miss the other insight that we have from the insiders, from the experts. Don't go anywhere. Before we get into any of that, though, this episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. You and I make decisions every day, but on Prize Picks, being right can get you paid. Don't miss any of the excitement this season on Prize Picks, where it is good to be right. And honestly, I am just so hyped that football is back on Sundays. All is right with the world, and I'm big into daily fantasy with Prize Picks. I'm obsessed with it because it makes all the games more entertaining. And before the Browns play, I lock in on all my players in my lineup and their player projections. Prize Picks is simple to play. Just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections. If you get your picks right, you could cash in. You can also follow other Prize Picks players directly on the app and copy their lineups in one click. Whether it's a friend, a celebrity partner, or just someone whose picks you like, hit the follow button and check out every lineup they create in the new feed tab on Prize Picks. You know I had to go ahead and make a lineup. Prize Picks has given us an awesome deal to get Stephen Curry more than half a point. He always does that. Quinshon Judkins, I have an emotional prize pick for you, ladies and gentlemen. Less than 72.5 rushing yards. I either make money or I celebrate. Quinshon Judkins getting more. And then Bijan Robinson, more than half a touchdown against that Dolphins defense. We saw what Judkins did to it, 3 touchdowns. I love it. Download the app today and use code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That is code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Dianna Russini is not done with trade news. The Raiders are open to moving receiver Jakobi Meyers while making calls on defensive linemen and cornerbacks. Now remember, ladies and gentlemen, Adam Schefter said that Shelby Harris for the Cleveland Browns, D-tackle, is a trade candidate ahead of the November 4th deadline. So for all the teams that are looking for defensive linemen, the Cleveland Browns have a very deep D-line, a very strong defensive line, one of the best in football. Still, we're first in total defense. And because of all the depth we have, we can afford to trade one if that is what the Raiders are looking for. Ian Rapoport weighed in on Jakobi Meyers' situation as well. A few teams have spotlighted Raiders wide receiver Jakobi Meyers as a potential trade target. With win now coach Pete Carroll, though, it's not a given the organization agrees to a trade that hurts them in the present. Las Vegas has made no outgoing calls. Meyers, who requested a trade in August but to no avail, also is in the final year of his contract and could be a rental for an acquiring team. And listen, the Cleveland Browns desperately need a wide receiver, folks. There is no doubt about that. There is no secret about that. But Rapoport has a point. that Myers is in a contract year. And it seems like the word acquiring team means you kind of would want to go to a playoff team, right? Maybe someone making a push to get him for this year on that deal. But that could be Cleveland. You might think it's crazy, but if we beat the Patriots this Sunday, well, then it's happening. Now we're fully making the push because the AFC North is still wide open. Cleveland's just 2 games back of first. That's not a joke. The Steelers losing on Thursday night means they have 4 wins. The Browns have 2. And we're ahead of the Ravens right now. A big win against the Pats would change everything for the Cleveland Browns. But even if they weren't going to make a push for this season, the Browns have surprisingly freed up a lot of cap space. Credit to Andrew Berry for the job he's done restructuring contracts, turning some of Denzel Ward's salary into a signing bonus, and all of a sudden the Cleveland Browns are the 6th most cap space of any team in the NFL right now. Over $23 million. We can afford to give a good receiver an extension in the offseason, and we desperately need to get one on our roster ASAP to help any quarterback that we play back there this season. So I bring back my trade idea. How about we get Jakobi Meyers, we give Las Vegas a 4th-round pick. He's on a contract year. He wants out. They are the worst team I've ever seen in my life. Let's make this deal. Take a 4th. Give him to us. Bring us Jakobi. Now, there was a receiver that's been talked about a lot that I really would have wanted. It is Chris Olave, but Dianna Russini tells us that the Saints have been trying to work out a long-term contract for receiver Chris Olave, despite his name being attached to teams looking for pass catchers. And so, of all the receivers we talked about, Olave, talented guy with a little bit of an injury history, but he played at The Ohio State University. And the Buckeyes have been balling for Cleveland lately. Come on, Quinshon Judkins, you name it. We've been having a lot of success with the Ohio State University players. Seems like Olave would be a tough buy, though. The Saints don't want to move on from him. They're really trying to work a long-term deal, and because of that, it might be a little pricier, a little steeper to be able to acquire Chris Olave. So, unfortunately, that one doesn't seem as likely, but if it does happen, we'll be here for you on the Browns Report to tell you exactly why and when it does. Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it. Some more trade buzz from Dianna Russini. The Chargers are looking for running back and offensive line help. We can't help you in the O-line department, Chargers, but Jerome Ford, a name that has been talked about to be a potential trade candidate a lot. Well, I could absolutely see him going to the Chargers for 6th or 7th round pick. The Chiefs, not actually looking for running back help. So we thought that maybe they would be in the market to trade for Jerome Ford, to trade for Breece Hall, a running back of that nature. Well, it seems like they are not taking those calls, and they're more so looking for defensive line help, which, as I pointed out earlier, the Browns have some depth, some players to spare. Shelby Harris, namely, according to Adam Schefter. Stay tuned, watch those 2 teams in the AFC West, see if they make a deal with Cleveland. Finally, the Jaguars reportedly are searching for more defensive help, and Dianna Russini says the Jags are expected to get involved in more trades ahead of the deadline. They're having a good season. They're buyers right now, and what do I say to that? Let's trade with Jacksonville again. We keep fleecing them. I'm down. Whatever it is, let's call them up and make a deal. I think we're 2 for 2 against them. Not only the Tyson Campbell trade, who Campbell has been much better than Newsome since the trade has happened. And what a performance Tyson Campbell had on Sunday against Miami. Didn't allow a single reception in 30 coverage snaps. And that speed of Campbell to trace down Devon Achane, make that tackle, touchdown-saving tackle, he's a star. Let's flash back even further to the earlier trade that the Browns had made with the Jaguars before the season even started. Remember when Cleveland entered the draft with the number 2 pick? Everybody said it'd be crazy if we didn't draft Travis Hunter. Well, Hunter hasn't done a whole lot offensively. They really use him, he is a dual player, but he hasn't had a crazy good season so far. And what did Cleveland get with their draft picks in that deal? Mason Graham, Quinshon Judkins, our brightest star on offense, Dylan Sampson, and the Jaguars' 1st-round pick. We got a haul essentially just for Travis Hunter. They used Bashul Tootin a little bit in the run game and Raywan Lane, but come on. Our guys better than those guys. Cleveland has fleeced Jacksonville twice now. Let's do it again. I'm down. Folks, if you made it to this point in the video, you are a real one, a diehard Browns fan, a real NFL fan as well that wants to know what's going around the league and how Cleveland can capitalize on the trade news and trade intel and rumors. Thank you so much for watching. Like I said, hit that subscribe button. We're so close to 56K. We appreciate all of you that tune in and watch the show, and thank you so much for making it part of your day. We'll see you next time here on the Browns Report.